All right, how you guys doing today? We are going to continue this reaction. Same day for me, different day for y'all. First things first, I just want to make sure you like the video, hit a like, exit full screen, scroll just a little bit, like the video, then full screen it back up. You feel me? So we're continuing on with why Christians won't read the Bible. Not don't, like some do, but a lot of Christians won't, right? Everybody has one, right? And if you don't, you have access to the internet, if you're watching this video at least. If you have a phone, probably. You can get the Bible app. You can read the plans. You can watch another YouTube video of somebody doing that. But nobody wants to take the initiative to do something, right? I'm watching 40-minute long sermons from Pastor Paul because I want to understand this, right? I'm basically doing what is equivalent of taking a 50-minute college lecture. I'm just not taking notes. If I took notes, well, occasionally I take notes. But if I took notes, it'd be the equivalent of taking like a 50-minute college lecture class for just not even one chapter of the Bible. So this dude got 40-minute long sermons for one verse sometimes. One verse. Right? You ain't gonna sit through that. I know you don't. Because you wouldn't watch this video. Or maybe you would and make yourself feel better because you actually read the Bible, right? But like, you get what I'm trying to say. You're basically taking a whole lecture worth of class just to understand one chapter max, one verse. Well, he does some that are like multiple chapters, but that's for like old books, like the Old Testament. Most of the New Testament stuff you're getting verses, maybe not even a lot. All right, but doing that, and then for 1,500 pages of a book, most people don't really want to do that. They don't want to do that. They'd rather have somebody sit there and tell them what to think and tell them what's right and what's wrong. That's the reason we got so many weird doctrines and all this type of jazz. But overall, God gave us his word. The word that's active, sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through the bone and the marrow, separating the who's from the what's-its. Right? He gave that to us. Is it not a squanderance of a gift to not read it? I think it is. But, you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Let me know if you got something to say about it in the comments. But let's keep it going with this video.
Sometimes people do ask questions, but then they're told by the people they trust not to ask questions. And so they get into the habit of
Another thing, I'm sorry to keep pausing it, right? Pastor Paul does Q&As on his channel. Why is there no Q&A section in church? That don't even make sense. You got people reading this 1,500 word book, probably at a different part than you're talking about in your sermon, because 90% of church is probably preaching a topical sermon rather than straight through the Bible, like I think they should personally, right? If you're teaching a topical sermon, why is there no space to ask questions? I don't care if you got a fellowship hall in your church and you want them to ask questions there, do it in front of the entire congregation. That should be the bulk of it. Why do we gotta, I don't hate the singing songs. I actually like singing songs, but why do we gotta read the same type of, God pray for this, God pray for that? I don't hate it. But in terms of like practicality, what are we learning here? I don't want to say that church is primarily for learning, but like we are supposed to be equipped. Nobody's equipping these people. Most pastors aren't equipping nobody. You go to church to feel good nowadays. People ain't really rocking like that. I know. Trust me. My church is empty. Trust me. Let's continue.
or maybe they don't develop the habit of critical thinking, right? I think critical thinking is something that has to be taught or learned, and then you have to practice
Yeah.
it. Like you have to practice it a lot. And even I fail, and we all fail in that. Even those that are really trying hard to think through things, we're going to fall victim to beliefs that aren't true. We might see something on the internet that we believe and find out later it's not true. So we all are only operating from what we know, and we're all trying our best, I think. And so I think those people, they just assume that the information they're given is true. And I think a lot of people aren't that serious about their faith. And I hate to say that because I know I get pushback when I say things like that, but there's a lot of people that just feel like this is my reality. God exists, and I know that I'm supposed to, do what the church says. I'm supposed to love God and believe in Him and be a Christian, and that's good enough for me because I'm saved. I've got my salvation. I'm going to heaven at the end of it. What more do I need to do? And so I think a lot of people just get complacent in that. And I also think that people do have questions, and they realize that if they keep pressing those questions, they might uncover some information that would
Yeah.
shift their perspective. And I think that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And maybe they don't do it consciously. Maybe it's like subconscious or a type of maybe almost like a survival technique within them that's like they don't want to go through the process of having to dismantle and question everything they believed in. So they're just going to keep on the path that they're on. And they're not going to ask too many questions because that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be faced with the fact that everything you believe might not be true. And some people just don't want to face that. And I understand that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it does come down to fear is a huge one, or
Mhm.
like you said, And again, I already feel the pushback. I hate it too. The reactions that I
It's
get
like
when I
you
say this
hear the
kind of thing.
responses
Yeah.
as you're talking, right? Like you know what they're gonna say.
Yeah, like you don't want to tell someone they're not serious about their faith, but it's like if your significant other wrote a book and it was long, 800,000 words, same length as the Bible, I can't imagine a world where you don't read their book. And yet the
Right.
creator of the universe, who supposedly loves you, that you claim you have a personal relationship with, that you say you're willing to die for, you've read 4 chapters, 6 books, like whatever it is, the fact you haven't, like, you don't read this, like, it always blew my mind. And also I get it. There were definitely times where I was like, oh, I don't need that. Like, that's not for me. You make excuses. You're like, oh, the Old Testament is just pointing Jesus. I'm already at Jesus. I got it. Like, here's the pretty parts. Here's how
Hmm.
Paul is telling me to interact in the church. And you make a bunch of excuses, but it
We
does
do.
always baffle me that there is this other side of it where some of the most extreme people that I know tomorrow would like sign up to be martyred for this religion. Or I think about like people like my mom, who for all of her faults has dedicated the last 40 years of her life as a missionary, as a missions director, making very little money, you know, not living well off, and she's not benefiting from this at all. And she doesn't know her Bible. You know, it's like, how can you be this confident with such little backing or information? And the other answer there, I think, is that people think Jesus is having a relationship with them personally. So when they pray, they're
Yeah.
hearing something, and that's going to be personal. That's going to be for them. That's so much better than reading Ecclesiastes. That's confusing. So I think there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, it's interesting. I think one that you brought up that is especially big is there's a lot of people that I think know if they look too deep, they're going to get themselves in a pickle, to say the very least. So it's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, they don't want to bring up all of these questions because it's opening up a can of worms. And once you flip the light on, you can't flip it back off. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I think deep down, some people know that, and they don't want to open themselves up to that possibility of becoming like me. You know, the angry atheist on YouTube who's just mad and bitter
Yeah.
and lives a miserable life.
I didn't know she was atheist. Low key at the beginning when she was talking about some stuff, I was like, hold on. But I was like, oh no, this is two Christians are talking maybe, but I really don't know. Either way, this is buffering. That's not normal. My roommates have been talking about the Wi-Fi sucking, but like my PC has always been fine. My phone has kind of sucked. My laptop has kind of sucked. My PC has usually been fine. But yeah, you'll get a jump cut to being back.
It. And I think deep down, some people know that, and they don't want to open themselves up to that possibility of becoming like me. The angry atheist on YouTube is just mad and bitter
Yeah.
and, lives a miserable life without God and is going to go to hell at the end of it. They don't want to turn into that. And so, they're just going to keep on doing what they're doing. But I really do I think a lot of people just trust their pastors and they believe they have this personal relationship with God, and that's a really hard thing to kind of break through. A lot of times Christianity is a lot more cultural than it is like a personal spiritual experience, and it's so popular and it's so normalized that it just
Hmm.
is the way it is.
Yeah.
Right? And anybody who doesn't agree is going against what's normal, is going against the way things are.
I think she said it beautifully, right? A lot of people, they don't want to get uncomfortable and shift their mindset of thinking of, oh, I see this verse that says lusting after a woman is bad, and that's all I do. I can't do. God doesn't want me doing it anymore, but like I don't want to stop. And then they get put in a rock in a hard place, right? Or something that says doing this is bad, or doing this, it's not in God's plan, or this thing can lead to this, which is this, and that's technically bad in this day and age because they didn't have it exactly back then. You're just sitting there and you're thinking about your life and your actions now more and more, and you're getting hurt because you're thinking, all the things I do hurt God. And they're hurting you, which is good, because if you're hurting God, you obviously want to be hurt too, because that shows that you really love God, because only somebody who doesn't really love God can continue on doing the things that God knows is bad. And I don't want to say they can't ever do those things again, but I mean continuously choosing to do those things, right? You continuously choose to sin against God. We're getting into a little bit of muddy territory now, because what do you mean this is bad and you just keep doing it intentionally? Like you just say, yeah, meh, I know it's bad, meh. It's like saying, dude, I don't want lung cancer. Yeah, I'm about to go smoke this whole pack. But then also, dude, I love my lungs. I love them. They're so great. I absolutely adore my lungs. Like it just don't add up. Or, dude, I love having money. You just spent $200 on Pokemon cards. And not the expensive collector's item ones. Dude, I just love Pikachu cards. The non-expensive ones, dude. I just love them. but I love having money in my account. Ooh, spending money on Pikachu cards is bad. I'm gonna keep doing it. But I love money though. But like Pikachu cards. And I love money though. But you keep burning and you're broke all the time. But Pikachu cards and money. You know, you're just sitting there and you're confused. Because you don't. Right? You can't love the both things, right? No kingdom divided against itself shall prosper. Or whatever Jesus said. Something like that. But yeah. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all read your Bibles? Let me know. I'd be interested to know. Right? I won't say that I've ever fully got through mine, right? Technically, we left off in 1 John, which is where I was before I was doing the Proverbs study that I'm on now. But we're going to finish it. We're going to finish Proverbs. We're going to go back to 1 John. We're going to get that rocking. We're going to get that rocking. See y'all. All right. That's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.